So thank you very much for starting with the public forum. My name is Mira Belenke. I have been coming to a public forum at school committee meetings pretty regularly. And in fact, the diversity committee has been so upset about what I've been saying that they, in response, wrote a letter to you asking you to mandate diversity training to the entire town government because of what they called my hateful and vitriolic comments. So I just want to point out that I'm still going to keep coming to school committee meetings and still sharing what I think. I'm not even in town government, so I'm not going to be affected. So those $2,000 you spend are not going to affect me one way or another. But more importantly, diversity training, especially mandatory diversity training, has been falling out of favor all around the country, and for a good reason. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. It just doesn't work. People have to be forced to attend diversity training, and thankfully, companies are less and less likely in the corporate world to force people to attend. 1/3 of DEI professionals have been laid off last year. Job listings are down 44%. Nobody wants this, and for good reason. A microaggression training, the kind that you're considering, is often considered to be some of the most poisonous kind, because a microaggression is really just any common expression that someone else takes offense at. So the only way to avoid saying a microaggression is not to watch your language, but to watch who you talk to. And that's really poisonous to teamwork, to office morale. People stop actually talking to each other. They stop offering constructive criticism. They'll say, oh, that was a nice report. I just, because you don't want to deal with that. So I really hope that you reconsider this microaggression training. Definitely reconsider making it mandatory. And finally, I just want to say that the solution to a lot of the problems we're facing today is to actually talk to each other, to have those uncomfortable conversations, even if it means hurt feelings, because democracy is messy. And the only way we could avoid fighting with fists is to we are willing to talk to each other with words. So I'm going to keep coming to different public forums, sharing my views, even if I know that they're unpopular and unwanted. And I invite you guys to have the courage to do the same. Thank you.
To piggyback on what Mira was saying, I'm here to talk about the mandatory training. I understand Kiana taught two-hour training sessions a few months ago with different groups of town employees during work hours. In case you forgot, we live in the United States of America, and you can neither compel speech or prohibit it. You want to know why? We have this thing called the First Amendment that protects free speech with few exceptions, no matter what. You can be offended by what I say and how I say it. And guess what? Too bad. There's social and professional consequences, and that's my risk and any adult, any American's risk to take. No one gets to tell someone how to think or what to say or what not to say. If you support indoctrinating Americans with a leftist, cultist, ideological dogma, then you are Marxists. A person is no longer an individual, but an avatar of their identity group. You are creating a false binary where someone like Sasha and Malia Obama are oppressed victims because they're Black, while an abused white kid raised by his grandma who grows up in poverty is a privileged oppressor. It's absolutely disgusting. You're manipulating people into thinking that they have some kind of unconscious racism flowing through their veins and need to be re-educated. And what do you know? You already have a curriculum ready in the hopper, and it's at the cost of I think it's $2,300. And this is just one of, there's supposed to be an implicit bias training that's on the wish list that's coming next. And now you want to add a pre and post test to ensure that human beings are educated in the right way. You have zero authority to mandate this ridiculous microaggressions training, and zero authority to make Sharon taxpayers pay for it, and zero authority to deny the reappointment of people who are on these boards if they refuse. And I hope that anyone who is required to this training slaps you with a lawsuit so fast your head spins. Thank you.
I'm talking, that's to speak a little bit about the DEI training. And I am a former school committee member. I served 6 years up until 2020, and very involved in my town politics. And the thing is, it's mandatory to be reelected. I think that is the issue. We kind of have a right to that. I'm not sure of your town's charter, but we would not make anybody that was elected by the people. or even appointed to do something without something kind of fair. And I think being paid for it, you can't really say, gee, because someone didn't do a training. Now, also, what kind of liability does that put up for your town? If they do the training, that's going to make the town more accountable that it failed or not. And people probably can sue. And also in school committee, we're saying about bullying and sensitivity training. What is your policy on bullying? What kind of consequences is going on with the children that are bullying other children? I know I put in, when we said zero tolerance, we actually had steps of what was going to happen. So as adults that are going to this, what are we also doing with children? What kind of example are we setting? This is going to be town-wide, or is it just going to be for these positions? So it is going to open up a lawsuit because we do have something called legal. So if somebody is doing something malicious or saying something hurtful, you can file charges with the police department and they can investigate. But I don't think it's up to a board to say you can't be reelected if you don't do a training. Now, I believe everyone here is fine with equal because I'm a disability advocate. I'm a human rights officer. I have ADA. I advocate. I'm at the Federation of Children right now for a training. And I have autism, and it's not really about disability. So I would like to look at the town. What kind of stuff are you giving to disability people? What is your medical reimbursement? Are you giving back that to the kids with disabilities? So I think it's going to open a can of worms of what is being fair and what is training. And I'd be willing to say, if we're going to do this DEI training, that let's make it that there's a room of what works for Sharon. And we all talk about what is sensitive for the needs of Sharon and what's going on and what's the consequences of it and the liability. So, I mean, that's where I would say, and I'd be glad to help with this. But I think what's being fair is fair saying to not be reelected before sort of training. We need to have something equal opportunity to that and the consequences to be fair to all. Thank you.
Let me clarify this, just a couple of things that were said that's not factually true. First, this is not for elected officials. This is appointed officials. Second of all, appointed officials do need to come before the select board before they're appointed. And if they want to get reappointed every 2 years, I believe it is, right, Fred? 2 years, every 2 years now?
Well, mostly 3, but depends on the board.
Yeah, sorry, every 3. And they do have an interview policy. So when people are going on Facebook or wherever you get your information from, mandatory means yes, we are strongly basically saying we want all these committee members to take a training. And I think before we ridicule the training, taking the 30-minute training would be good. And then we can have discussion about whether it was useful or not. That's number one. Because I do agree wholeheartedly with Mira that dialogue is important and you can't have effective dialogue if you're not actually coming to the people and trying to have a conversation. So I do agree with that. But this training was voted on. It was asked by the DIC. It had nothing to do with the school committee because we don't have purview over the school committee. The school committee has been doing their own DEI training for the last, I think, 2 to 3 years. I could be wrong. Hannah and Emily can come in, and maybe even before that. So then we had a discussion because several of 3, thank you, Judy. We've had discussion about, and the select board did a training too, I think 2 years ago, a year before I came on it. So we had a discussion, about appointed committee members who have human beings that they're sitting on with all different backgrounds, having a training to be able to dialogue without ridiculing people, without being nasty to people, and being able to have conflict with that. And that's what we decided to do for training. If you choose not to take the training and you sit on these boards, then that's what you choose not to do. Will it come up when you come before us? We will see. But it's not for elected officials. Elected officials are for the public. And the public, if they, I've gone through an election, they can ask what they want when you elect whether they decided. So it's not for that. Also, I did not do a training for the staff a couple of months ago. I think the training I did for the staff was well before I was a select board member. So that was over a year ago, correct, Fred?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, so,
again, just want to make a couple points about that was not correct, but I appreciate everybody's comments. And if people want to further have discussion, I think I can speak for Emily and Hannah. You can email us and we'll be happy to discuss this. And I'm pretty sure I can speak for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. They will happy to have a conversation about what is really going on about this training and not what people believe is going on about the training. Thank you.